Shalom. Pastor Harkman back at you with this truth, giving all praise to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem Rakah Kodash. And I'm going to entitle this video, Only the Elect Are Written in the Book of Life. What I'm going to do is go right into the scriptures. If you you put this word Book of Life in the search engine of any like Bible concordance or the blue letter, you get a handful of verses from different chapters of the scriptures. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and give you a handful of scriptures and then see where the Spirit takes me. First scripture is Philippians. And by the way, women are written in the book of life. Philippians 4 verse 3 proves that. So you have the 144,000 and you have the 1/3, which among the 1/3 you're going to have women and children. You're going to have, the Apostle Paul told a jailer, if you go to the book of Acts, that ye shall be saved in your house. So you being saved as a man can save your wife and your children. And a woman that could be saved can in turn, her husband and her children could be saved. It speaks about the unbeliever, unbelieving spouse, unbelieving wife or husband in 1 Corinthians 7 chapter. So if you have a woman, can she be an unbeliever? Of course she can. You're going to have women that are unbelievable, but they're going to believe when all hell breaks loose. They're going to believe during the time of Jacob's trouble. Anyway, it says, Philippians 4 verse 3, and I entreat thee also, true yoke fellow, help these women which labored with me in the gospel, with Clement also, and with other my fellow laborers, whose names are in the book of life. Revelation 3 verse 5, he that overcometh, the same shall be clothed in white raiment, and I will not blot out his name out of the book of life, but I will confess his name before my Father and before his angels. Let me read that again. He that overcometh, the same shall be clothed in white raiment. Scripture comes to mind, Revelation 7. Okay, it says Revelation 7 verse 9. It says, after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues. These nations and kindreds and people and tongues are Israelites scattered throughout the all over the world. You know what I got to do? Let me bring up another tab here. Bear with me for a minute. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28. Verse 64. And Yahweh shall scatter thee among all people. So if we're scattered among all different people around the world, we're going to pick up their customs, we're going to pick up their language, we're going to speak their language. We're over here, Israelites are over here in America. What language do we speak? We speak English. The Israelites that were brought against their will down to Haiti and enslaved, the language that they speak is French, and French Creole. You have the so-called Latin tribes. They speak Spanish because the ones that conquered them were the conquistadors, the Spaniards. So they had to speak their language. The most predominant religion in the South, Central, and South Americas is Roman Catholicism. Why? Because their conquerors forced Christianity or Roman Catholicism upon them. So when you go back to Revelation 7 verse 9, after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations, meaning we came from different nations around the world, and kindreds and people and tongues. So we spoke these different tongues. When you go to Acts, during the Pentecost, when you go to Acts, the 2nd chapter, you can start around the 5th verse. It tells you there was devout men, Jews. There were Jews, devout men. These Jews were devout out of every nation under heaven. And the first miracle that took place with the apostles was they spoke in tongues, and those tongues represent different languages. Because those people were the lands that Israel went to. They picked up those languages. They lost the Hebrew, but they knew that they were Hebrew. They knew that they were Israelites. You know, somebody might come up and say, well, how can you be an Israelite if you don't know how to speak Hebrew? Well, how can a Chinese person, that's a 4th, 5th, 6th generation Chinese person, you say to them, oh, well, you're not Chinese because you can't speak Chinese and you can't eat with chopsticks. It still doesn't change the fact that they're so-called Chinese. Anyway, it says, Revelation 7 verse 9, after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and peoples and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. Coming back to Revelation 3 verse 5. He that overcometh, the same shall be clothed in white remnant, and I will not blot out his name out of the book of life, but I will confess his name before my Father and before his angels. So who are these people that are going to be clothed in white remnant? The Israelites. Who are these people in Revelation 7 verse 9? from every nation and tongue and kindred people that put on white robes? Israelites. Deuteronomy 28 verse 64. And Yahweh shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of earth even to the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods. I said in Latin America, you can look it up, the predominant religion is Roman Catholicism, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. And the wood stone represent these churches that they go to. So now let's go back. Revelation 13 verse 8. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Let me read that again. Revelation 13 verse 8. And as you read down into the 15, 16, 17, 18 verse, it goes into the mark of the beast. And all camps out there should be teaching that the mark of the beast is coming. You know, you got this madness. The Vocab Malone did a video about the 400-year prophecy, and he was showing different clips showing that the 400-year prophecy didn't come to pass. It was a false prophecy. And well, we knew that the 400-year prophecy was not talking about this time period. It was talking about Egypt. And we knew that this wasn't going to come because the mark of the beast has to come first, which is the microchip. You got a lot of these camps going off. I was just watching this one video with Barack over there in Israel saying you can't get spiritual power. You can't get healed of diabetes and rheumatism and all that. You got to come back to Israel. Well, diseases are nothing but deficiencies. Whether it's a vitamin D deficiency, whether it's a deficiency of greens or chlorophyll, whether it's a zinc, the deficiency of zinc. The Most High made the body perfect, but he cursed the body at the same time. He made it perfect. That's why men in the ancient world were able to live. The oldest living person was Methuselah, and he lived to be 969 years old. So he's a little more than 31 years shy of 1,000 years. And that's literal years. And then the Most High cut that down through the Spirit to 120. Then he cut it down again to 70. Three score plus 10, and with strength 4 which means 80 years. So you live to be 70 years. You're promised to live 70 years, and with strength you live 80 years. Now when somebody hits 80, normally they're going back and forth to the doctor getting medications, and they got to change this body part and that body part, and you're constantly going to the hospital because your body's breaking down. And then when you go to Google and you look up the average lifespan of somebody, now you have people that live 90 in their 90s, you have people that live in their 70s or their 60s, but the average is about 80 years. But recently they said that the life expectancy has gone down maybe 3 years. Anyway, it says, Revelation 13 verse 8, and all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. So if you're not, and we know that Israel's gonna, 2/3 of Israel is gonna be destroyed any damn way. On this side, why? Well, one of the main reasons is they're gonna worship this beast, or they're gonna worship the beast system, and ultimately, in you worshiping the being a part of this system, you are gonna take that microchip, which is the mark of the beast. So if you're in the Lamb's book of life, you're not going to take that chip. The Most High is going to give you the spirit to resist that chip. If you're not written in the Lamb's book of life, you're going to take that chip, and you're going to be destroyed. That's why we here at Great Millstone, and like I said, when they really start putting, however they're going to do it, whatever they set up chipping stations, however they're going to do it, you're going to be going to these videos, man, these GMS videos. It says in Revelation 17 verse 8, the beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. The beast 2,000 years ago was the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire is going to come back out of the bottomless pit, which is Europe, and now it's not called the Roman Empire. It's called the NATO and the EU, and America is part of NATO, and I always say that. And go into perdition. The word perdition means destruction. This system, this is also mentioned in Daniel the 7th chapter, because it mentions right here in Daniel the 7th chapter. I'm gonna go to it real quick. We all should know it. Daniel. Daniel 7. Let me put in the word beast. Okay, the word beast in Daniel 7 comes up 10 times. Okay, I want the seventh verse, Daniel 7 verse 7. And after this I saw in the night vision, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. This is the Roman Empire, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. So those 10 horns represent those nations that was part of the Roman Empire, that the Roman Empire took over those major nations. And I broke down the actual 10 horns. I might do another video on that. Now I'm going to jump down to the 9th verse. It says, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool, proving that he's the Lord. If he comes down, he's going to come down as a so-called black man with a big afro and a big bushy beard and dark skin. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels, remember, this is the vision. This is a vision. And that represents a gigantic ship as burning fire. a will within a will. Ezekiel, the first chapter. Even Esau knows that. If you go to Esau UFOs in the Bible, they'll give you their first reference is Ezekiel, the first chapter. A fire stream issued and came forth before the thousand ministered, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were open. That's the great white throne judgment in Revelation. I believe that's Revelation 20. I beheld them because the voice of the great words which the horn spake. I beheld even till the beast was slain. Which beast is going to be slain? The Roman Empire? The Roman Empire is history. Literally. I beheld even till the beast. So this is the new beast. This is the beast that was came to life. Behold, his deadly wound was healed, and he came back to life in Revelation, the 13th chapter. That's this system right here. That's this system right here. I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. The burning flame represents these missiles, ICBM missiles. In this situation with Trump killing the second in command, this top general Soleimani, it's not, you have Israel, yeah, we're going to be out of here, man. This is it, brothers. No, it ain't it. The mark of the beast, which is the microchip, has to come to pass. If you don't teach that, and you don't understand that the mark of the beast, which is the microchip, has to come, then guess what? You're missing a big part of the puzzle. That's why you can't see the whole picture. See, we here at Great Millstone, we have all the pieces of the puzzle, and we put the puzzle together. The puzzle's already together. We see the whole picture. You see spots where you don't know where does this piece fit. So you got an incomplete puzzle. You don't see the whole picture. It says, as concerning the rest of the beasts, which are the other kingdoms, the Babylonians, which the high priest Ariah used to say that they were Ethiopians. They were not Ethiopians or Cushites. They were Assyrians. Nebuchadnezzar was an Assyrian. He came out of the Assyrian Empire, which became the Babylonian Empire. The Medo-Persians represent the people of Iran. Those are the rest of the beasts are still here. The Greeks, which are Edomites, and the Romans, which are Edomites. And that's in your secular history. It says, as concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time, because they're still here. I saw in the night vision, behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven. That's how the Lord's coming back. Acts 1. He was lifted up into heaven, and the two men in white, arrayed in white, told the apostles, why stand ye gazing up in heaven? The way he left is the way he's going to come back, in clouds, which are so-called UFOs. It says, I'm going to read it again, 13th verse, and I saw in the night vision, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days. Hold up. The Son of Man is our Lord Yahweh Shai, coming to his Father. Two separate spirits, and they brought him near before him. And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion. And who are the joint heirs of that dominion, of Yahweh Shai's rule? Us, the Israelites, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom, that which shall not be destroyed. which Daniel didn't understand what he was writing down. So anyway, I did all of that to come back over here. Let's come back over here to Revelation 17 verse 8. The beast, now we know who the beast is. The beast in Revelation is the same beast in Daniel 7. When you go to the Apocrypha and you read 2nd Ezra the 11th chapter and 2nd Ezra the 12th chapter, when it speaks about the eagle that was spoken of by Daniel, thy brother Daniel, or however you can go and read it, that has nothing to do with this beast. The burning fire in 2nd Ezra 11 and in chapter 12, I believe it's in chapter 12 about the fire. You got people talking about it's America. It has nothing to do with America. It has nothing to do with NATO. 2nd Ezra's the 11th and the 12th chapter is talking about the Roman Empire when Esau was in its power. And the Roman rule was really from the time of Julius Caesar to Domitian, the younger brother of Titus, whose father was Vespasian. After that, you had Jake ruling. It was a Roman Empire, but you had Jake ruling. See, Esau knows this, man. Esau knows about the so-called black Roman Caesars, and they don't want that to happen again. Revelation 17 verse 8, the beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. So what's that? The Roman Empire, deadly wound was healed, so raised out of the bottomless pit. The concept of America came from where? From Great Britain. You had the 13 original colonies. They broke off from Great Britain or England, and they had three wars. The Revolutionary War, the Spanish-American War, and the French-American War. When you go back to Daniel 7, it took down three horns, the little horn. And Christians don't understand that, except for the elite scholars of Christianity. They understand it. These little guys like Vocab and them and E.J. Love and Adam West, the guy from Atlanta, they don't understand. They don't. That's why when the young brother, what's his name, Hassad, I believe his name is, he asked him about I think he went to Revelation 18 about the 10 horns, and the guy wanted to change the subject because they don't understand. Like I'm gonna say this again, the elite Christian scholars, they know what we teach is the same thing that they understand. So they know that we're men of the Lord. Revelation 17 verse 18, the beast that thou sawest was and is not, was the Roman Empire, and is not, was destroyed, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. The EU was brought together by what a treaty? The Treaty of Rome. Go to the EU. Get all the history on the EU, and they had a, was it called the Treaty of Rome? It was called the Treaty of Rome. Matter of fact, you know what? Instead of me thinking about it, let me go, bear with me for a minute. Let me see, EU. Let's see what happens. Bear with me for a minute. And don't take my word for it. Look it up. Look it up for yourself. I don't know if they're gonna say this. Wait a minute. Okay, but good. It says Treaty of Rome. Wow. It's written Rome. If you look up the word, do a word search on Rome. Wow. Okay, European Union. It says the European Union, EU, is a political and economical union of 28 member states. Back then it was 10. And when you do the math, these 28 add up to, actually the major EU nations are, the flag of the EU is 12 stars, but it's really supposed to be 10. You have Ireland, which is part of Great Britain. So now it comes down to 11 stars. Then you have what is that? Portugal, which is part of Spain. I got to go back to it, but I did videos on that. So it actually goes back to 10. And the rest of these 28 nations were in one way or another part of the original 10. It says the European Union is a political and economic union of 28 member states that are located primarily in Europe. Europe. That's why it's called the European Union. And they're all Edomites. That's the new beast. It came out of where? Europe. That's how you know that's the pit that came out of the bottomless pit. Its members have a combined area of 4,400? What is that? 4,475,757 kilometers, which is 1,728,099 square miles. An estimated total population of 513 million. Let me jump down to the next paragraph. And this is from Wikipedia. If you go to European Union, it'll take you to Wikipedia. Now listen to this. The EU and European citizens were established with the what is that? Maastricht Treaty came into force in 1993. The EU traces its origins to the European Coal and Steel Company, ECSC, and the European Economic Community. I remember that, the European Economic Community. That's what it was first called. If you do, let me do this. Let me do this. If you take the cursor and you put it on European Economic Community, which is the EEC, it gives you a little information. It's the European Economic Community. EEC was a regional organization that aimed to bring about economic integration among its members. It's based upon economics. That's why certain nations want to pull out of it. It was created by the Treaty of Rome of 1957. Why did they have a Treaty of Rome? Why they use Rome as a key? The gathering of Rome, the Treaty of Rome, upon the formation of the European Union. So here it is. It says The EEC, established respectively by the 1951 Treaty of Paris, which is one of the EU nations, and 1957 Treaty of Rome. It says the original members of what came to be the European community were the inner six: Belgium, France, Italy, which is Rome, Luxembourg. These are European. And you can read yourself. But anyway, I kind of, ventured off into another topic, but that's that history. You gotta know that history. Anyway, let's go back into to Revelation 17 verse 8. The beast. Now we know who the beast is. Now we know who the beast is. Now we know that there was a beast 2,000 years ago, and the current beast. And by the way, the EU is linked up with NATO. Most of the EU, matter of fact, you know what I'm going to do? So nobody gets stupid. You don't have African nations in NATO or the EU. Okay, let's see. Let me see what nations. Well, yeah, boy, oh boy. I'm not going to read all through it. Okay, North Atlantic Alliance, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. It says is an intergovernmental military alliance between 29 North American and European countries. If I can get some of the names. When you do the research, you find out that NATO nations are also a part of the EU nations. But I'm not going to go crazy. It mentions Brussels. It mentions Germany, Italy. The NATO nations are all European nations except for Canada and America. But Canada and America are controlled by so-called Europeans, Edomites. So let's go back to Revelation 17 verse 8. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition, destruction. What's going to go into destruction? We read it in Daniel 7. NATO and the EU and the UN and this current system. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. So what does it mean by wonder? Wonder. Wait a minute, did I pass it? Okay, wonder.
Strong's G 2296, Thalmazo.
which means to wonder, wonder at, marvel, to be wondered at, to be had in admiration. Admiration means what? It means love. The word admiration means love. Admirare, which means love. Let me try something. It says in Revelation 17 verse 6, and I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints. The woman represents America. The saints are Israelites. When they came over here and took down the Gadites and Reubenites, and then they went down into South America and they slaughtered them and enslaved them and colonized them, and then they went over to the western coast of Africa and they brought against their the Israelites and brought them over here to serve slavery. So that's what it means by the woman drunken with the blood of the saints. They became rich through us, through slavery. If you had a business and you had 100 workers and they didn't want to get paid, that's more money for you. And with the blood of the martyrs of Yahushua, and that was back in the past. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. The word admiration means love. It says a wonderful thing, a marvelous wonder, to wonder with great wonder, i.e. exceedingly love. So now let's go back to okay, where am I? Almost there. Okay, Revelation 17 verse 8. Go back one more. Let me read from the middle of it. Dwell on the earth shall wonder. Wonder meaning have great love. Worship, whose names were not written in the book in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they beheld the beast that was and is not and yet is. So wonder meaning love. You're going to love this system. You're going to love to be a part of this system. And ultimately you got to take that chip. And the ones of you that take that chip, the mark of the beast, you are not written in the book of life. The Most High is going to give the spirit to the elect to resist taking that mark. So when they really push this mark of the beast, which hopefully is this year big, they're going to push it big time. There's going to be a lot of scrambling as to whether you in the right camp, as to whether your teacher or your high priest is really correct. You're going to question them, and you're going to question what about GMS? And GMS is going to come up quite a bit, and people are going to say, well, GMS said this. Is this the actual? You're going to get a headache hearing about GMS. Revelation 20 verse 12. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before the Most High, and the books were open. And this is the great white throne judgment, as they call it. And another book. You know what I'm going to do? Let me do this. Let me do this. Let me try this. Okay, Revelation 20 verse 11. Revelation 20 verse 10. And the devil that deceived them, and the devil is who? NATO, the EU, Esau, the elite. And the devil that deceived them, what did he deceive them to do? To accept his way of life, Christianity, ultimately the mark of the beast, the microchip. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. 11 verse. And I saw a great white throne, which they call a great white throne judgment. If you go to Google and put in great white throne judgment, it's going to take you to Revelation 20 verse 11. And I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before the Most High, and the books were open, and another book was open, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the book of life according to their works. So us being out there on the highways and the byways and doing these sit downs, we're doing the work. We're laborers. We're yoke fellows, as the Apostle Paul said. So this thing that we're teaching, this is a global thing. This is global. This is a world thing. We're speaking about the destruction of this system, this current system. That's why you can't make this book, match this book on any other book. The scriptures stand alone. The scriptures, this is the only book that speaks about the mark of the beast, about the microchip that was prophesied, given to John the Revelator, John the Apostle, 2,000 plus years ago on the Isle of Patmos, and it's coming to pass. He actually saw somebody sitting down with a doctor or somebody putting the microchip in the guy's right hand, left hand, butt cheek, forehead. And the sea gave up the dead which was in it, and death and hell meaning the grave, delivered up the dead which were in them, and they would judge every man according to their works. It goes on to say, and death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. Now you ask a question. You ask a Christian about the lake of fire. It's talking about hell. If you ain't right, you're going to burn in hell. So you ask him, well, how can you cast death and hell into hell? It said this is the second death. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. So who's going to be cast into the lake of fire? All these different nations. The downfall of this current system. And Jake is going to be a part of that. He that is joined unto them shall be slain by the sword. Revelation, Isaiah 13 chapter. Okay, Revelation 21 verse 27. and there shall in no wise enter into it anything that defileth, because the Most High is going to change us. 1 Corinthians 15 chapter. Neither whatsoever worketh abomination or maketh a lie, but they which are written in the Lamb's book of life. Who's written in the Lamb's book of life? Not all Israel, only the elect of Israel. Last scripture, Revelation 22 verse 19. And if any man shall take away from the words of the book of this prophecy. And when you other camps out there teaching that the mark of the beast is not the microchip, guess what you're doing? You're taking away from the book, the words of the book of this prophecy. The Most High shall take away his part out of the book of life, and out of the holy city, and from the things which are written in this book. The holy city represent what? The kingdom of heaven. Going to be the ones that it speaks about the second death. If you go back to Revelation, let's go back to Revelation 20, verse 14. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. So what is the lake of fire? The destruction, the utter destruction of this system. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say shalom, and it's on to the next one. I didn't want to speak on the chip, but guess what? The mark of the beast, which is the microchip, kept coming up through the spirit. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say shalom. On to the next one.